Hi, everybody. Hi. Thank you so much for joining me again. We've been going through this wonderful liberation journey. The book launched in January. We've been asking me questions every Monday for the month of February. And I felt like I wanted to offer something different, something new, another advantage point for all of the great resources that I have. I talk a lot about resources. I talk a lot about utilizing your team and your tribe. I talk a lot about my tribe. And I said, well, what better way for me to, again, not only talk about, but now show and demonstrate what a tribe looks like, how my tribe rocks out, and the ways in which we intersect with one another and support one another. So I have my guy here. I have my best friend, my male best friend, my performance coach, my business partner in the studio with us today. And we're going to be kicking it. We're going to be talking about some great content. So I want you all to help me join Naja Bolden, aka Pig, Phoenix Innovation Group. If you're not following him, you're definitely missing some awesome content. So Naja, welcome so much. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So Naja, for those of you that are not following him, and he does such a better job of it, so I'll give you a snapshot of how it is that I feel about him and some of the things that I believe that he does so wonderfully well. But he is a resilience expert, a creativity consultant, and he is a performance coach. So if you can give us a little bit fabric, because some individuals don't know the difference between, regular coaching or professional coach versus a performance coach. So Naja, if you could enlighten us.
It's nuanced because I see a lot of people have a lot of different things out there. However, it's very simple. I help people sustain high success, long-term success. That's basically it.
High success, long-term success.
Yeah, that's condensing it. Short.
Well, listen, not on my account. You don't definitely have to condense it. So when people are saying, okay, well, what exactly does that mean? Because as creatives, right, you and I are creatives, a lot of people misunderstand creativity. So since you just gave us, again, a snapshot of what a performance coach does, enlighten our audience and talk about creativity and what exactly it can do for one's life and what it's done for you.
Creativity saved my life. And I think that's like the greatest thing that can be said about it. Just knowing that my free thinking ability is really all that I need. You know what I mean? To make manifest all the things that I can imagine. So, but again, that's me operationalizing what creativity is for me. You know what I mean? If we get into the science of it, we'll be here all night.
Right.
But one of the most common definitions or references, correct me if I'm wrong, is the ability to modify self-imposed constraints.
Self-imposed constraints.
Yeah.
How powerful is that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I subscribe to.
Imposed constraints. So you and I talk a lot about basically everything.
Yeah.
We often say we don't agree on a lot of things, but we agree on a standard of excellence, right?
That's the only option. There's nothing else.
Right. So standard of excellence. And in that, we could say that because of that, we agree on everything, right?
Well, forcefully, it's got to work. It's got to make sense. You know,
it has to make sense.
It's got to make sense. So after we can carve it and make it make sense, then we come to a consensus.
We come to a consensus. Yeah. Right. So you know this, and I'm hopeful that you're not going to feel some kind of way for me putting you on the spot, but I think that you're beautiful, right? And inside and out, right, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that you're a beautiful being. your frequency is so high. And you talk
Thank
about, you're welcome. You talk about self-imposed constraints. So you are a man, a beautiful man. I am a beautiful woman. And because of the way in which we move and we intersect, right, we understand that there's always conversation around that, right? Right.
Yes.
So we're talking about imposed constraints. A lot of times relationships get it twisted because we have self-imposed constraints. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's say, since creativity saved your life and you understand your own thinking, what are some of the things as it relates to relationships, personal relationships, that have allowed you to soar to another level and release them self-imposed constraints, especially when it comes to relationships, right? So we know and love your son, right? So little Naj, you see him on campus, hanging out and things of that nature, and the idea of traditional relationships.
So can you repeat that?
So we're talking about self-imposed constraints,
yes.
right? Self-imposed constraints and traditional relationships.
Yes.
Can you talk about, for yourself, how being a creative and understanding yourself, how you were able to release yourself from this notion of, because I'm a man, because, I love women, you're feminist and you speak of it, that means I have to be in a relationship, right, that's with a individual, one person, and that means that I am, I'm in that space I'm supposed to be. Yes, you're following, right,
I'm
right.
following the dogma.
You're following the dogma, absolutely.
So, thank you for clarity.
No problem. No, thank you. So I'm gonna have some wine. I'm gonna have some wine because this is a bit. I'm sorry. I think my thing went out, but you will have yours because I think I got a call. So it says it's live, but it's dark.
Yeah.
It's wine time, guys.
So
we're talking about self-imposed constraints, and again, fitting in, especially when it deals with relationships.
Well, my awareness, my level of awareness, and I guess understanding that at first I don't know anything at all, right?
Hold on. Yeah.
But what somebody has given me or somebody has told me, like again, we talk about the dogma. So mastery in short, and ownership is, mastery is the only way to get to ownership.
Sure.
Or ownership is the only way to get to mastery. And that's basically owning my bullshit and then reflecting heavily on why my bullshit is my bullshit. So not automatically blaming someone else for something that I had a large part to do with, right? So if we live reflective as mirror neurons, then I'm just as much as fault as the person that I'm holding as fault. So I need to reflect on all the ways in which I might have went wrong and then power through that. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so what's the solutions to that? And peeling back those layers, I'm able to acquire answers for those things individually. So let's just say, for instance, what was the basis of my insecurity? You know what I mean? And it's just like, well, damn, well, my mom not being there and stuff like that. So it's just like, well, does that play a huge part? You know what I mean? Is my abilities to have a sound relationship handicapped a little bit because of that? And not willing to accept that, yeah, it is, just like powering through that. Okay, well, I might have fucked up sometimes, but, I need to work through that because I've taken losses that was way greater, but I'm not in this sport to keep racking up losses. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a winner, so I'm gonna win. So I look at things in that grace of, well, what does it look like for me to have a successful relationship? Me personally,
right.
You know what I mean? Not what is projected for me to have. I did that. I've tried that. You know what I mean? I've been married. I got my son. That was two different circumstances. So I've had those experiences of knowing, is that my way? Is that my life? You know what I mean? And so,
be able to parse that.
I'm bumping my head a lot in between,
right.
All over. So it's bringing me to that kind of place.
So you talked about mastery. You talked about ownership, and you talked about owning your bullshit. So, as again a feminist, a womanist, as an individual that love men, in particular Black men, women have a very difficult time loving men like you, and not understanding all the complexities that come along with your plight, your flight, and the fact that there's some things that have been missing in your life. In your particular instance, your mother wasn't around, but a lot of times with other men, it's the opposite. Their mom was around, but their dad wasn't around. So when you think about this, and again, so, audience, IG audience, we thank you again for being along. We're streaming live both on, Phoenix Innovation and also Liberated Woman sites. And the content that we're having, this is our content. The content we're having, we both own. We talked about ownership, but additionally, we're speaking from our perspective and our prism. We're not saying this is all women, and we're not saying this is all men. We're providing a framework for conversations, because a lot of women want to be in relationships with men, but don't know how to meet them where they are. Mm-hmm. So for a woman who's wanting to be in a relationship with a man that has some of your ownership of your bullshit, some of the things that you've gone through, and realize that, hey, at one particular time, I tried to be in a relationship with just one person, but that was when I was my most miserable. How do we meet you where you are? How do we, say, listen, I dig you, I care about you, I'm in love with you, but without feeling less than, or without feeling like I can't be enough for you?
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to say, I don't know, because that's like a really blanket answer. However, from what I've seen in my travels and some research that I've done, absolutely knowing who you are and what you want. Okay. You know what I mean?
Ownership of, right?
The best defense is the truth.
Wow, love that. So I'll drink to that.
So if this is who you are and you're communicating who you are, and at first the person who is receiving the information of the man communicating who he is, woman or man, you still have to understand that dialogue. Because I could be saying to you, I love basketball, and I can't wait to, get successful in basketball and this and that, and I love just chilling with you, and I, love how we vibe out, and how that make me feel, and I'm recharged when I get to basketball. But you may be hearing, man, this nigga love me and he want to take me with him with basketball. You know what I mean? So
that's so deep. Right, because as women, we kind of hear what we want to hear. We insert ourselves, in the situations. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so you got to make sure you're communicating on the same wavelength. You know what I mean? And that you're understanding things as you probably should. And people don't question stuff because they think that questioning something makes them annoying or look stupid, when actually it shows leadership, when it's not being petty or crass. You know what I mean? If you want to ask, like, so what do I look like in that? You know what I mean? Be deliberate. You know what I mean? When you hinting and beating around the bush, it's like you went in there and you stole a cookie because you were scared that I might have said no. You know what I mean? Right. You didn't include me. So if you want to know for a fact, then just ask me, and straight out. You know what I mean? Because men, we like that. We drag the club like a caveman like that. Like, tell me what's going on. I don't get it. Wow. You know what I'm saying?
I do. So. All right, so again, I want to make sure that I'm understanding too, because I'm in these streets, right? I'm in these streets, and I'm like, hey, boy, what's good with you, right? So it's not annoying, it's not petty when we just want clarity. So if I'm hanging out with dude, right? He's like, yo, babe, I'm really excited about this next jump off. It looks like I'm going to be the person who's going to get this gig in Arizona. I'm really excited. Just because he and I are hanging out, or even just because we're in a relationship, doesn't mean that he's looking for me to come along on the ride. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
It's so many different nuanced things to that. But yes, I am saying that. Yeah, it's yes and. You know what I mean?
So
because,
yes and, right?
Yeah, there's so many, you know, so many different variables that can be about that, because the vibe, the energy could just be right. And it needs not, it's just understood. You know what I mean? It don't even need to be spoken. Sometimes when things are spoken, it spoil it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm a different kind of guy though. So
yes, you are.
I'm a different kind of guy. You know what I mean? And you know, I'm honest about myself first. So if you are in the league with those kind of people, and I'm gonna say in the league because it's those mirror neurons. You know what I mean? Right. You are what you eat. You know what I mean? So if you can't say I want this kind of person and you're not around. You're not in those waters. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So first, you know, be there, be in those places, and I feel like, you know, if you got that great energy already, you're going to attract what you want. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Do conversation. If you know what you want, it's just like, man, we click. You know what I'm saying? Like, wow. You know what I mean? I like puppies. You like puppies. I like M&Ms. You like M&Ms. You like the movies. I like the movies. But that's surface dwelling conversation. But when you go further in, like, what's your life goals? You know what I mean? What you got to be getting into, and you know, what's your focus, and where are you currently in your life? You know what I'm saying? Like real penetrating questions that engages great conversation, because I feel like it's an art now. I'm not gonna say it's a lost art, but it's an art to have a penetrating conversation. Everybody want to be so tight. And, this is what I want to show you, because this is what I consider to be perfection. But you know, on the other side of this false veil, I'm so unhappy. You know what I mean? I'm so miserable.
So what happens in the event? Thank you for that. You know, by the way, what happens? We're just chilling. We're hanging out. We're having a good time. The mood is right. The vibe is there, and it's determined that we're in a relationship. Right, and I'm speaking obviously metaphorically, right?
It just transitioned into that.
Right, well, exactly. You know, after
without
time,
words, yeah.
Right, exactly. No, there was a conversation. Yeah. No, I don't know. We ain't doing.
Oh, it was deliberate.
Yes,
okay.
You listen. Right, he
said this was your thing, and yes. I said this was your thing.
Yes, right, and it's our thing, right? So there's been some deliberate conversation, and let's just say, And in that deliberate conversation that we have a theme, the female is a little bit more established, right? We know that 73% of the individuals in college are what? Women, yep. Right? We know 60% of all master's degrees are held by women. So it's very likely that some...
And women have been just fearless in going out there and navigating different things, whereas, you know, where... a lot of men were belt-fed manhood by one means, especially if you come from a certain environment. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it was a time where the working man was the stiff, you know what I mean? It was a sucker, but there was no, like, what are you doing? Not everybody is on the executive level in the streets, you know what I'm saying? So women have been fearless, like, I'm going to do this, you know what I mean? I love this dude, but I'm going over here, you know what I mean? And I think that's been substantial with the growth and
sure.
You know, the evolution of how black women is the backbone of America, right?
So take that. Great. And I love that you're a feminist and you're so well versed in that. So rocking out, and then he's in the process of getting his stuff together, works and stuff like that. But again, it's not equal in terms of level, and not that she wants them to be equal, but there's a possibility that he could be feeling some kind of way because he might be keeping score. Is there anything, and again, I understand that that's not your prism, I understand that that's not your perspective, but for the women that
Can you break down what keeping score means?
So let's just say keeping score. So
just so the audience
yes, so we're talking about keeping score. Okay, you own your own home, I don't. right? So she owns her own home, he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
She pushes a foreign, he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
She travels with her job, he doesn't.
Or girls.
Or right, exactly. And her career path is bright, and his is just kind of getting kicked off,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was an understanding that we're in this together. There has been no dissension about, well, you know, nigga, shit, you won't make X amount of dollars. Ain't none of been that. But there's been some misfiring on his path in terms of conversation, disappearing acts. Hey, where you at? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm trying to get myself together. Then come back, everything is cool, and then dip off again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything, and I think I might know, right? What can women in these positions that love these men, regardless, they're not looking, again, keeping score, they're not looking at how much money you make, they're not looking at, you don't own your home, I do, they're not looking at all of the materialistic things or the societal things, because we know society plays heavily on men, especially men of color,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the oppression,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything, or what ways could we possibly, again, not make him feel secure, because he has to be secure in his own self. However, is there anything that we can do to say, listen, you're my guy. I'm not trying to be with anybody else. I'm wanting to be with you. What
Mm-hmm.
does that look like? If you could provide some fabric for us.
Again, from the research that I've done,
Right.
When it comes to black men, like you said, being inundated by the constant programming of what an American black man is. It's like a wild animal, you know what I mean? And you have to listen with more than your ears. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able, because I kind of took this workshop in, comprehending with more, with your body. And sometimes, like with a horse, right? And you can't break this bucking horse, right? So you gotta buck with the horse. You gotta get crazy with the horse for a little while. You know what I mean? The horse look at you like, well, okay, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And this is just behavior. You can look it up. It's the behavior science. So now it's those mirror neurons. So now after some time, it might take 20 minutes, it might take 30 minutes. But after some time, the horse is like, and y'all start to get in sync. The horse is doing what you're doing, you doing what the horse doing, and then eventually the horse gets more, builds up enough trust with you to kind of like, open itself up to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Okay, now I want to hear what you have to say. And I say all that to say about with black men, you know what I mean? Because was it James Baldwin that said every black person in America is schizophrenic?
I think it was him. Because we were talking about that.
Yeah, I believe it was James Baldwin. Might have been said, but look that up. I'm not saying that that's a crutch, but I'm saying that the culture of who we are is totally different than what the pragmatic American dream looks like. That's not the culture where I come from. And instead of doing the same thing because of tradition, we have to innovate. You know what I mean? We have to figure out what works for us. You know what I mean? And sometimes you got to do some research. What did African people like me, first let me do my DNA. Let me see what tribes I came from.
Okay.
What was African people like me doing back then? Okay, now that I have more, I've diverged, I have more options, let me see what works for me, right? We automatically subscribe to holy matrimony. We don't know why, but we do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's what you belt fed. That's what you programmed. Here at David's Right. You know what I mean?
Funny. That's the jingle.
You can hear it. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh wow, I can't wait to be married. And then from a little girl, you like, your dream. One of your dreams has to be somebody's wife. You know what I mean?
And then therefore, if not, then there's something wrong with me.
Something got to be wrong with you, and
Sure.
you want to have a baby daddy. You want to do this. You want to do that, and blah 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 blah. Because that's that archaic tradition, right? But in 2018, with equality, right? And holy matrimony, it still says that my wife needs to be objectified by me. She needs to love and obey me, right? She's my object of affection. You know what I mean? To be had when I want to be. That's not what I want. Remember, I'm a creative. I'm looking for somebody that has those abilities to modify self-constraint, right? That's constantly evolving. So we wouldn't fit, because you gotta sell me on holy matrimony.
Right.
Because for the longest time, I didn't know what it was until I looked it up. And unless you devout in that church on, you helping, you ushering, you know what I mean? Those are the people that's looking at it like, it's this, dummy. But
but it winds up not being that anyway.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
right. That's what somebody else has forced you to want, and nobody ever, critically evaluates if that's for me. Like, they're so quick to objectify, man. And I don't mean to go off on a tangent.
No, and this is great stuff.
But I was at the barber shop one day, and it's like a unisex shop, so it's a salon, and she's got to have it. The new one, the reboot was on, and this woman was just, dogging Nola Darling, like, oh my God,
right.
And I'm like,
she's so horrible. The slut shaming, right?
Yes, and I'm like, well, what's the matter with her? You know what I'm saying? And she like, well, you don't want to be worn out and this and that and blah blah blah. Now, I didn't know at the time that this woman is going through a bitter divorce.
Sure.
Right? So this woman looks like everything that she isn't. So this may be everything
she wants,
that my husband wants, right? Because you don't know. It's just when somebody cheat on you or somebody leave you, you like kind of stuck. Especially when it sprung up on you, like, what the fuck? What happened?
Right.
So she was like dogging her and this and that and blah blah blah. So I had that little bit of fabric after some time. We was kicking it, and she was like, well, she gonna be loose and all this and that, and you don't want to be loose. No man want a loose woman. I said, man, that's a woman with confidence that knows herself and is evolving every day from where she grows. And I'm like, that's totally attractive to me. And she was just like, really? Like, wow. I'm like, I mean, that's way more important to me. That
right.
She's a freaking individual. She knows who she is.
Sure.
Versus, or she's trying to figure it out versus you stuck miserable and you don't know why. Pass me a 40. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Not a 40.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'd rather having somebody who has skinned their knees a little bit to know, like, that ain't for me, right? Because how do you know that you just want to be with me? Just out of sheer want.
Or just
not because you need me or I need you. It's just like, baby, come get to me right now. I just want you. I just want to hug on you. I want to kiss on you. Right. You just feel warm thinking about that, right?
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, I want to lay up.
That's what the real love isn't hard. It's not hard. So if you know what I'm saying, like I think about like looking at my because my niece and my son and my niece was born a month apart, so I got to see them together, right? And I just remember like looking at both of them and was just like, yo, I don't know what this incredible eruption that's happening, this warmth that's happening inside of me, but I just couldn't stop. I can't stop kissing them and recording them and taking pictures and stuff like that. And now it's dawning on me, like, this is what being rinsed and showered with love is. This is what this feels like constantly, right? So if I didn't know before that, I know this now. So this feeling, now that I have the criteria, it's a different ballgame.
So is it that we're not cataloging these experiences?
Not at all. We're going through them blindly through the distraction of our hurt. You don't look at what you was doing in those situations, how you could have been better.
So you were trying to just get through it because you were in so much pain.
That nigga, man, you suck. You know what I mean? Or that chick, man, I'm tired of these. Out of, you know how people talk. Right. You know what I'm saying? I believe now, individuals are doing better to become, hospitable and tolerant during breakups as educated, evolving individuals. Again, as women evolve, we have to evolve. You know what I mean? But you overwhelmingly love or feel like you love something else other than knowing if you fully love yourself. You know what I mean? That that's like your bucket is busted, but you steady trying to fill somebody else's bucket up, like, you know what I mean? And you keep coming up short. Right. So you gotta be in love with yourself first. You have to know
unapologetically. Right.
I masturbate every day just because I got to get it out of me. If you can't talk about
loving
yourself, yes,
right,
then you can't. Where's the integrity for the love for yourself? Like, how far does it go?
So let's talk about that. So when you talk about ownership and you're talking about knowing yourself and being in that particular space, when did you get to that wonderful place of freedom? Because I'm all about this liberation piece right now for a multitude of reasons, but we're talking about you right now. So when did you just when did you just say, listen, I masturbate every day? I remember one time we were talking about it, right? So just throwing it out there, he was like, I can't keep my hands off myself. I thought that was so freaking sexy.
Yeah.
So when did you become just so comfortable and say, listen, I masturbate every day?
When I decided to stop hiding from the fact, you know what I mean? Because there's an adage that goes something, and I'm botching it. It goes something like that. Well, celibacy equals greatness or something like that. Greatness is equal to celibate, something like that, right? So, I went celibate deliberately for some time, and then experimentally, and then it's just like, damn, sometimes. And that's mostly because of the focus, right?
Sure.
Focus
being deliberate. Sure.
On what I'm doing, but catalog. What is it? What did you say?
No, so I said, again, that ownership and being free enough.
Oh yeah,
when
I got that from. I got that from. Like, man, because I come from savage land, so you know what I mean. When people, you tell other grunts that you ain't having no sex, you know what I mean? And then you still want to talk about certain exploits, like, and it's just like, this shit was crazy. Like, but did you fuck? No. You know what I mean? And
then you have a whole bunch of brothers and big cousins and stuff like that, little cousins.
And I'm the last one that's out in the field. So they like, come on, bite their heads off. And I'm like,
because you're holding up the team. Like,
right.
It is contingent upon you because you're bringing up the rears. You're the baby boy, right?
Yeah,
you're the baby boy.
I'm holding the flag for my nephews and my son and everybody coming after it. And they like, man, what is you doing? Like, come on, you know what I mean? But I knew it was something inside of that. It was something inside of me being more with women. It was something inside of me something inside of me avoiding going to this space of intimacy because I didn't know what intimacy was. I thought intimacy equated only in romantic intimacy, where I had to be boning this chick in order for us to be getting intimate. When you look up the word intimacy,
it's the opposite.
It's multifaceted. You know what I mean?
And then sometimes, penetrating a female isn't intimate at all.
Oh, absolutely not.
So
some women can rock out like that. Max is one of my
your favorite,
Maxine
right?
Shaw,
living single,
law.
right?
Yeah,
living single.
It's important to like that level of awareness to be like I'm so comfortable with myself because this all is in the same thing. I have this thing, this notion, right? It's this world, right? That's made of 70% of water, right? 30% of land mass, right? We're made of 70% of water, right? 30% land mass, right? So everything else, the trees, the other animals, all natural matter is made up of 70% water, right? Our oceans go to extreme depths, right? But we haven't yet invented a craft that can go all the way down to the deepest ocean, right? But we can go to Mars. So colonization, we want to colonize the person. You know what I mean? Like, this is my person. Well, babe, don't you want to go to the gym today? Well, babe, don't you think you should be trying to? Well, babe, you ain't got to raise this person.
So it's the whole idea. So remember, that reminds me, segue, you said something when, we first we met because we're both creatives, coming out of the same department. And as our relationship evolved, because again, we were, two of how many? 4 brown people in the department. And there was clear, a connectivity, energy, synergy that was around you and I.
Well, I was fucking my craft up at the time, and giving me these looks like, okay, you know, and I was just like, God damn, like I was so embarrassed, like I'm letting my spot down, like the only brown people, I'm letting them down. And you was just like, no, that's not how I was looking at you. I'm like, yeah, go, you know what I mean? You doing it, you know, you're doing it or whatever. So that's how we really.
Right. Well, yeah, but I remember that because, you know, you were sweating, you had your towel, and I was sitting, you know, you're facilitating right here.
I sweat. Right. I was sweating chewing this gum, man. They don't take that.
And then I was sitting right here, and my thing was, I don't have a poker face, so I'm certain my face was saying something, but it wasn't saying that.
He was like.
What I was saying was, I'm like, okay, and I was like, now this, and now this, because by you and I, again, looking like one another, there was no way for me to have information. I was going to allow you, again, to flounder.
Right. Absolutely.
I said, so, okay, now this. And then remember, after that, I was dubbed the universal process buddy. And for me, I wasn't looking for that term. Yes. I was looking to let you know you have a support in me, because empowerment has always
standing in the gap.
Exactly, been something
been naturally,
and I didn't even know it. So again, we talk about taking the dots out of our pocket and begin connecting them, you know, with that. So, you know, the energy and the connectivity. But that made me
practice and go harder.
Right, and then now you're the sharper of the two. I'm like, what was that again, Naja? Remember, tell me how this is. In that particular space. So, you know, we're talking about, again, the connectivity, we're talking about energy, you know, just ownership and knowing. So you mentioned, you know, in relationships, you know, we're not necessarily, can be intimate, not intimate, but you're talking about cheating. So, you know, because not only you're a performance coach, but you're my friend, and we share, you know, personal stories. And you know that basically in every one of my relationships, I've been cheated on. And I remember, you know, saying, you know, or believing, how about that? I remember believing that it was my fault, right? Mm-hmm. So we're fixing, because is yours still going on? Mm-hmm. We're making sure that we're still rolling, guys. Thank you so much. We see so many people on with us, so thank you. I remember believing that it was my fault. I remember believing that it wasn't enough. I remember believing that everything that happened to me, I caused in some form or fashion. I don't believe that any longer, but we're talking. Yes, thanks so much, right? Thanks so much. For the women that are listening, and even the men, right? Because women are cheated on, men are cheated on. It just isn't going one way and what have you. But let's talk about the women for a moment. Because you're open and honest about who you are. You don't cheat. You just say, listen, I'm the cat that's going to, I enjoy women. Right, exactly. You own, I enjoy women. Yeah, I enjoy cuddling. I enjoy all of those great things. But for the man, the gentleman, right, the individual who hasn't freed himself or owned it, and they end up, you know, cheating, right?
Or cheating on the guy, you said a guy like me, if I end up cheating?
No, you don't cheat. But I'm saying, because you don't, but for the men that you've been around, friends, brothers, cousins that have cheated, why do men cheat?
Well, that comes from a space where I want to assert some type of power. You know what I mean? It's very little to do, for men. It's very little to do with, unless it's just some old soft dude that's, you know, because black men don't plot against a woman. You know what I mean? They don't.
Okay, so let's say to
get caught. They wasn't doing this to get caught. They were just doing this. I'm blowing off some steam. Did you see her ass? Like, man, it was nothing. That's all it was.
So. Again, and let me say this, I'm asking this question, I know the answer because we've had this dialogue, but again, our IG listeners may not, so we want to help some people. One of the things that you helped me make clear is that just because I was cheated on didn't mean, one, that the people that I was with didn't love me, and two, it wasn't about me.
No.
And when men cheat, sometimes it's not about, again, they love somebody, it's about the conquest. Like, listen, I just...
Right, so like, what you like? What do you want me to? My vivacity would It's statistically proven. You know what I mean? Now they got the male version of PMS, low testosterone.
So
they losing their hair, they get the pot belly, they listless, they don't want to work, they don't want to work out, their sex drive is low, and they just like whipped into this fashion like, you know what I mean? And you created this culture of oppression. Everyone loves this oppression. Everybody loves to be a dictator. My man better not be doing. I know my guy. I know what he do. That's my friend. You know what I mean? That's totally different versus he bet not. Because at the end of the day, what are you going to do to somebody that you love?
Exactly. And then drive both of y'all crazy and then all this dissension. So what are some of the parameters, right? So you and I had this conversation, but I want you to tell them because I thought it was so awesome. Because I'm thinking, for myself, I'm like, okay, I might end up with a younger guy because younger guys are the only guys that approach me. Guys my age don't, because again, they might be thinking they can compete with me.
I just think you're in the wrong. If that's happening, you're probably just in the wrong market.
Okay, I'm in the wrong market, so I'm getting ready to go to the right market. Because again, I want to go on a date.
Hey, your Wegmans was good. You might need to go to Whole Foods now.
Right, exactly, and that's the other piece too. Understanding, the ownership, but then elevating your game and elevating your circle. And not that we haven't. But if you rock out and you subscribe to certain things, it's not necessarily you. I think all too often, women and men, we accept just, leftover bread because that's the only thing that's in the box.
We love oppression. We love it. We love to be slaves. We love
mediocrity, that's all we know.
We love it. We love it. We love to be like, I'm in this because there's comfort in misery, right? You don't know what bliss looks like, but you know what this looks like. And in a sense, that's comfortable because it's you've created a paradigm of this, right? That paradigm becomes comfortable, right? Even in this misery, you're going to self-medicate or you're going to medicate some kind of way to cope with this, right? However, if you were honest with yourself, you would be able to be like, what I need now is the strength, courage, and confidence to leave this situation alone. And this ain't for me. You know what I mean? They everywhere.
Okay, so
you see these dudes? They everywhere.
Okay, so what about this?
Get your IG, lose some weight, you know what I mean? Show out a little bit. We're gonna be like, yeah.
I can't believe it. I let her go. Like, and then he's trying to get you back.
He
right?
Be watching y'all old porn. He gonna be watching his old porn. Y'all old porn together. Like, baby, I just want you back, please.
And you be like, no, I'm due. Okay, so what about this? Does a woman or a man, so let's just say, because some women are just like, listen, I want to be with more than one man. Again, he would have to be.
She got to own that. Right. She got to own that.
Right.
It don't matter if he's, because she'll see that. He'll expose himself, even if he tried to be. You know what I mean?
Right. But all right. So let's just say a male and a female, right? And then for the male is the one who's like, listen, I might step out or whatever. If I'm going into a relationship,
that got to be understood from the top.
No, but that's what I'm asking you. So let's just say hypothetically, he isn't owning the fact that oh my goodness, I want to, I like a whole bunch of women and things of that nature. But I love you. I want to be with you. You're my woman. You're it. He doesn't own that. Okay, then I find out, and then I'm like, why didn't you just say this? Right? Does a woman go into a relationship? Do I go into a relationship and say, listen, I know there's a possibility that these things may happen. Let's have some parameter around that so we protect both of us in our relationship and our friendship? Or does a woman just, if it happens and you find out, then you have the conversation? Do I go in having the conversation, or do I let it happen and then have the conversation?
That's
I know it's a case by
that's
case.
wanting to be prescriptive of a situation, right? That's wanting to own the situation before you get into it. That's trying to exercise some form of control of the situation.
That probably would be me, right?
So you have to be clear on what your agenda is. And be communicating that. So
So what would that look like?
So if you wanted to communicate this with a man, something, and I don't want to be speaking for women, but it's just as simple as like, you can keep all of that talk. Can we?
Right.
Can we ask? That's what this is about for me. I'm on my career path. I'm not looking to be. I'm not looking for that kind of responsibility right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm down to have fun and be friends until, you know what I mean? Whatever. Men understand that. In fact, that probably might drive him even crazier. Like,
and then you'll probably want to be in a relationship. Right? Okay, so ladies, you got that? Yo.
That's still scare tactics.
Right,
but
no, I'm saying,
terrorist
no,
action.
we're saying if that's where you are on it. We're not saying go in there thinking that is going to, you know, switch him around and be like, oh my goodness, I want to be with her. Okay, so let's take the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. What if I am looking to be in a relationship with a man and...
Then you still communication. You need to be communicating that with more than just your mouth. You know what I mean? You know, if you have in your mindset that your goal is to be a wife, then that's what's in your human, that's in your being as a human.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, like Regine, right? She's like, I'm doing all this to be somebody's wife.
Somebody's rich wife.
Right. I'm doing all this. Then that's your job. You know what I mean? That's you being all the time. You know what I mean? No matter what else you put into your life, you'll always be being this. So don't fight it. That's just who you are. Right? That's owning your bullshit.
Yes, that's ownership.
You know what I'm saying? So you have to be like, yo, you know what? I'm just that kind of chick. You know what I mean? I like that. You know what I mean? So, but you know, if you part of the Okoye, then you wanna, you know, you're gonna be like, you know, this is my path. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna do this like this. You know, even when it came to her lover, she's like, nigga, what kind I kill you? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you have to, you know, you have to have your purpose. You have to know who you are and what you want.
Period. Okay, so what
mastery? That's the only way to
mastering self, right?
Yes,
ownership.
That's the only way to acquire ownership.
So what happens? You know yourself. You've been clear in that communication. You're in a relationship. Y'all both say we're in this relationship together, and then the infidelity happens.
But then, again, that's knowing who you are and what you want. I feel like you can't have. It's like race relations, right? Like I was kicking it with my homegirl recently, and she was like, I feel uncomfortable sometimes talking to you about like my endeavors, you know what I mean? Like romantically. And I'm like, why? You know what I mean? And she was just like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Because you're a man, I don't know. But because it was something that was extraordinary. It was something that she wasn't used to. So there was no ground there. She had to build that criteria.
So what was extraordinary? Your relationship with her? Like your friendship?
Yes, that she was having breakthroughs like that. Like, damn, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, how do you expect to understand men if you're not having conversations with men? It's like race relations. How do you expect to understand the other side if you're not studying all the time the other side? You know what I'm saying? So you have to scuff your knees. You have to get in this thing all the way, get hurt, figure out what it means to be hurt, be cheated on, cheat on, and then, you know, so you have a wealth of these experiences.
Primary criteria.
So when you go into a relationship, you go into a relationship whole, not fearing what could be.
Waiting for the other foot to drop.
Come on, you walking on eggshells the whole time. Yes. What if, and then he gets some success with this. What if? That's insecurities. Mm-hmm. That's worry. That's anxiety. Mm-hmm. Where's the love in any of that?
Right, and so that's so wonderful. You know, where's the love in that? Here's the thing that, you and I speak a lot of the same language and a lot of things. I think there's certain things, especially with the relationship thing, you have a much better handling and navigate it better than I do because you have been better at cataloging your experiences. I am the individual.
Coming from where I come from.
Yeah.
Who else gonna root for me?
Listen, right? Well, yeah. But that was one of the things. I was in so much pain. I wasn't cataloging my experience. Remember, we were
trying to run.
Right. We were in Umber. You was like, well, you know, the elixir. I'm like, You was like, well, what is that? I'm like, I don't know.
Like, well, you know,
what are the steps?
Because what you said was, you know, Naja, you can trust me with the elixir. And I'm like, well, you know, that works both ways. Like, you trust me with your elixir. You like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, where's your catalog? And he was like, man, I wasn't really cataloging.
I wasn't.
So that's when we came up with the concept of connecting the dots.
Yes.
You know, taking them out your pocket and connecting the dots because you know, we have this wealth of experiences as a being. You know what I mean?
Sure.
you're the only person that has the power to discount your experiences, and often you do.
Often
talking about I'm just a realist. No, you're a pessimist. I want all the bad shit.
Right.
Because if you realize, like the song goes, if you realize, you know what I mean, that realize can tell real lies, then you'll understand when you lying to your damn self.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you won't have that. You know what I mean? That's that negative thinking. You'll shoot that shit down and be like, I wasn't built for that. I was built for this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Look at everything I've come through. Right. Everybody I know has been through some shit, like some serious stuff, right? And it's just like, hey, right. This is what it is. No, you don't go through all of this to sweep and mop up somewhere. You go through this to claim your divinity, your divine inheritance, man. Like certain things belong to me.
Right. And I want it.
And I want it. I want it. And not be ashamed to say I want it. Right. Most people be like, I want. You're like, what kind of car you want to drive? I know I don't want to drive. I don't want that Dodge Dart. I don't want this. So what do you want?
Dion, right?
What do you want? I don't know. Yeah. What do you want? Maybe I want a big Lexus truck. Oh, I don't know. No, is it okay that I want a Ferrari?
Of course it is. Well,
like it's your life.
But I think, again, remember you're talking about, black men in a way that, they have been, oppressed and trampled on. That's the same thing, too, for women as well. The socialization, we have been fed a story for so long that, again, we believe that. So what? Girls are taught that you grow up, you learn how to keep house, you learn how to, keep your husband happy and cook and clean and snow, cook, clean, and sew.
I think that narrative is changing.
Yes, exactly. It is changing, but again, that's why we have the feminist movement, because it's kind of like when the husbands were off at war, it was the women that went into the factories, because guess what? The kids need to be fed.
But go back to even like the Okoye. Well, you know what I mean? Like we've always had women that was very powerful. You know what I mean? It's just we were seasoned for years.
Yes. 400, sure.
With this level of thinking. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
The oppression, sure.
Yes. So you begin to love everything that looks like, because that's already your mode of thinking.
But no, it's not even necessarily your mode of thinking. It's the only thing that you've been thinking. And it's the only thing that you know.
You never stirred up any options for yourself to even figure out, do I even like oatmeal? Right. Do I like brown?
Wait a minute.
Do I like peach?
And why do I like it?
How does it make me feel after I have it? Does it make me feel like how they advertise it, what they say on the box? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to take me 40 minutes in the cereal aisle because I just don't know. I want to see what I want. Yeah. You know what I mean? I might not want the same thing this time. Right. Who knows? I know. You know what I'm saying?
Divergent.
You have to be willing to diverge whenever you have to begin dissecting everything that you do and why you do it. I don't care if it's from wiping front to back. Okay, but why do I wipe front to back? You go do the research. Be like, because if I wipe in reverse, it's so many problems.
There's so many problems.
but know why. Not because that's
somebody
what
just told you. Sure,
or
absolutely.
That's what your religion, that religiosity put upon you. You know what I mean? Know that because you know that. You know what I mean? I know that, God loves me because God is in me. I know that. You know what I mean? I don't have to
bless God.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I can bless God. I can pay my tithes. I can right now, in real time. You know what I mean? It don't have to be certain times every week. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like you gotta have the balls to take your life to say that I'm gonna live my life my way.
No matter what, right? And
if I'm gonna burn in hell with gasoline draws, like that, they say I'm gonna go, because ain't nobody came out from the other side to say that this is righteous, brother. You know what I mean? Hurry up and die and come on over here. Right. So I'm, my paradise is here. My paradise is on earth. You know what I mean? God gives me. That's my beliefs. God gives me my kingdom of heaven here and now. I lived in hell. I know what hell is. I was born in it. You know what I mean? Coming to this side is like coming back from the grave. Right. So it's totally different.
Right.
deal. So you know what I mean, like that's the way. That's my purview. I just don't subscribe to traditional things because I've had to do very unconventional things to get here, right? And I believe that God favors me because I was able to make it through all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. I know that. I believe that. I see it. I've always, we don't say always, never. I have told you from the very beginning that I believe that you're beautiful. I believe that you're beautiful inside and out. Thank you so much. But you are a brilliant burst of light. You're a refreshing breath of air, and you have so much to offer. And
they don't think you know me.
Well, listen, they already think that we have something going on. So guess what? That wouldn't be a surprise,
right?
But nonetheless, and again, that's the freedom of it, right? Mm-hmm. We understand that we don't owe anybody any explanation as it relates.
Why are you trying to why do you put so much energy into labeling me in my life?
Well, because I think
why don't you figure out what it is that you're doing? Because don't be distracted by what I do. Because
again, it's the idea. Again,
you're
about
weird. Why are you doing that?
Right. Having it fit because it doesn't look well. They said men and women can't have platonic relationships. Men and women can't be as close as we are without having something else going on. Well, we're already shattering that paradigm.
But that's the challenge I undertake. Whereas once you learn that lust is a basic impulse, I'm gonna want to do with my penis what God designed me to do with my penis. As you're going to want to do with your vagina and what God designed. That's basic impulse, right? Sure. If you can bypass the impulse, like how some addicts, and I don't want to use this analogy, but like people that use Ambien, and they be like, if you could take an Ambien and stay up past the threshold of going to sleep, it's like this whole nother world. Right. So like, if you can abstain from sex with somebody that's, that you feel a strong connection with, then I feel like that's a compliment to the who they are. You know what I mean? Like, you're so much more to me than just that. You know what I mean? Than to exploit for me or to conquer and colonize.
Or a couple, orgasms.
And then to overall have you upset at me because we had a good time. You know what I mean?
Right, because you're good with a good time. You're like, listen, I told you this is who I am, and then I get into my feelings and wind up being something else. And I think, that's one of the things, as women, and let me say this, I own this. I remember thinking when I was in, one of the relationships, and we're getting ready to close out, guys. Thanks so much for hanging on with us. I know we've been on for over an hour, which is wonderful. So, and you said, I was like, 30 minutes. She was like, no.
Yeah, once you get in.
No, once you get in. But I remember knowing that this individual that I was in a relationship was in so much pain, and they were broken. But because I loved that person so much at that particular time with whatever it was that I thought love, looked like, I felt like I can love that person past their pain. What I didn't realize was we both were in pain. It's
the mirror neurons, right?
Yes, right. So and again, I was like, oh my goodness.
You gotta forgive yourself.
Exactly.
And let that person go.
And exactly, because it wasn't right. But again, I'm holding on because of my deficit mindset, because I didn't realize I was the prize.
The favorite hoodie challenge, right? You got this favorite hoodie. You don't want to let the hoodie go. I love this hoodie. My granddad gave me that hoodie. My grandmother gave me that hoodie, right? And you no matter how many times you go buy a hoodie, you still keep that hoodie. Why? Because you love this hoodie, right? I love this hoodie. I don't want to let this hoodie go. It's my favorite, right? You get tattered or just useless. You've outgrown it, whatever. You want to keep it. Why? Because there's a fear that you'll never get another hoodie that'll make you feel that same kind of way, right? You have to detach the emotion that you've placed on the hoodie and adopt a more internal locus of control, and say why am I, again, that reflection, like, love is not possession.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
it's not possession. No. You can't, and for the same thing that make you love a person is the same thing that make you dislike them. Like Lorraine Hansberry said, the thing that makes you extraordinary or exceptional is likely the thing that will make you like lonely. So women are nurturers. You know, so much to the point they just want to take care of you. You know what I mean? And then men just be like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes, and especially, you know, from my perspective, you know, man got to get out the house. You know, they got to get away from you. They got to just do something else different for some time and then come back because they need to miss you. You know what I'm saying? And it's just